If you're over 60, I urge you to listen carefully. Because inside your fridge, maybe even on your breakfast table, there could be 5 common types of milk quietly increasing your risk of stroke. As a brain doctor, I've spent my life studying how blood flow, inflammation, and vascular health impact memory and cognition. But what I've discovered about these everyday dairy products is deeply unsettling. These are not exotic ingredients. They're not rare or imported. In fact, they're the very kinds of milk many seniors choose, thinking they're doing something good for their bones or heart. But here's the truth: certain milk types, especially when consumed regularly in later life, can thicken the blood, spike blood pressure, interfere with medications, and silently harm the delicate vessels that feed your brain. And the damage doesn't wait weeks or months. It can begin overnight with no warning signs. You might feel fine until one morning you wake up changed. In this video, I'll reveal the 5 most dangerous milk choices for seniors, explain the real science behind how they affect stroke risk, and guide you toward safer, brain-protective alternatives, because your next sip should heal, not harm. Before we dive in, if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you hit that button and turn on the bell so you never miss another health tip made just for you. If you enjoy this video, type 1 in the comments. If not, type 0 to let me know how I can make better content for you. 1. High calcium milk fortified with vitamin D. For decades, we've been told that drinking milk with added calcium and vitamin D is one of the smartest choices we can make as we grow older. It's marketed as protection for our bones, a safeguard against fractures, a quiet promise of strength in later life. But for seniors especially, those over 60, this kind of milk may be doing far more harm than good. And the danger isn't always where you expect it. As the body ages, its ability to regulate minerals becomes more fragile. Calcium, while essential, requires careful balance. When consumed in high amounts, especially through heavily fortified milk, it can begin to accumulate in places it shouldn't. The arteries. What many seniors don't realize is that excess calcium, particularly when paired with supplemental vitamin D, can lead to stiffening of the blood vessels. This makes it harder for blood to move freely, especially through the delicate network that feeds the brain. Over time, this stiffness can increase blood pressure, reduce oxygen delivery, and set the stage for a silent stroke. But the concern doesn't stop there. Too much calcium in the bloodstream can also interact with medications that many older adults already take: blood pressure pills, statins, blood thinners, creating a chemical tug-of-war that leaves the circulatory system overworked and unprotected. In some patients, we see early signs: headaches, brain fog, shortness of breath. In others, the first signal is more severe: a clot, a blockage, a moment of confusion that doesn't pass. The irony is painful. Seniors turn to high-calcium milk, hoping to preserve their independence, to keep their bones strong so they can keep walking, moving, living freely. But instead, what they may be doing is slowly narrowing the very pathways that protect the brain from harm. And all of this can begin with just 1 glass a day, especially when combined with a calcium pill or a vitamin D supplement that's already part of a daily routine. But here's the good news. You don't need to abandon milk altogether. What your body needs now is balance, not overload. Instead of choosing milk that's aggressively fortified, consider simpler options with moderate natural calcium and no added vitamin D. Plain low-fat milk, unsweetened almond or oat milk, or even a gentle dairy-free alternative can offer nourishment without pushing your system past its limits. And if you're already eating leafy greens, legumes, or canned fish with bones, chances are your dietary calcium is more than enough. The goal is not to fear nutrition, but to understand it more deeply. Because your brain, your heart, and your independence deserve more than empty promises on a label. They deserve care. They deserve circulation, clarity, and calm. And that begins not with more, but with enough. Up next, we turn to another type of milk often kept in the pantry. Used in coffee, baking, and quick breakfasts. But behind its rich texture lies a risk to blood sugar, blood pressure, and long-term brain function, especially for those who think it's safer than cream. 2. Low-fat milk with added phosphates. For many older adults trying to eat healthier, switching to low-fat milk seems like a sensible step. It promises fewer calories, less saturated fat, and a lighter feel in the stomach. But what most seniors don't realize is that many versions of low-fat milk, especially those with a long shelf life or labeled ultra-pasteurized, come with a quiet additive that doesn't appear in bold print: synthetic phosphates. These phosphates aren't the kind your body naturally needs. They're added by manufacturers to improve texture, prevent separation, and extend shelf life. And while they may help the milk look smoother or last longer, their impact inside the aging body tells a far different story. As we grow older, our kidneys gradually become less efficient at filtering excess phosphorus from the blood. This means that artificial phosphates, unlike those found naturally in whole foods, can build up more quickly, especially in those with reduced kidney function. Diabetes, or high blood pressure. When phosphate levels rise in the bloodstream, the body responds in ways that quietly sabotage vascular health. Arteries become stiffer, blood vessels lose their elasticity, and the smooth flow of oxygen-rich blood to the brain begins to falter. Over time, this can contribute to hypertension, reduced circulation, and increased risk of stroke, particularly in the small, vulnerable vessels deep within the brain. Seniors may notice it not as a dramatic symptom, but as something more subtle: a growing fogginess, moments of forgetfulness, or a heaviness in the limbs that doesn't quite go away. Even more troubling, studies have linked high phosphate intake with increased calcification in soft tissues, including the arteries. In the brain, where precision blood flow is essential, these changes can accelerate decline in memory, balance, and cognitive speed. And all of this can happen quietly. While the label on the milk proudly declares it as low-fat and heart-friendly, the intention, of course, is good. Choosing low-fat over whole milk feels like the right move. But when synthetic additives enter the equation, especially those like phosphate stabilizers, the result may be the opposite of what was intended. The shift doesn't need to be drastic. You don't need to give up milk completely. But it's worth looking closely at the ingredients. Choose milks that are minimally processed, without phosphate additives like dipotassium phosphate, sodium phosphate, or monocalcium phosphate. If the label is hard to decipher, favor fresh options over shelf-stable cartons. And if your kidneys, blood pressure, or heart health are already under stress, consider reducing your overall phosphate load by focusing on whole, unprocessed foods instead. Because what your brain needs now isn't more artificial stability in a carton. It's real stability in blood pressure, in circulation, and in the quiet clarity that comes when your body is truly supported. Coming up next, we'll take a closer look at another popular milk substitute, one often chosen for convenience, but which may carry chemicals and fats that quietly increase brain inflammation overnight. 3. Soy milk with estrogen boosters. Among the growing shelves of dairy alternatives, soy milk has long been praised as a plant-based choice that's gentle on the stomach and friendly to the heart. It carries the image of wellness clean, balanced, forward-thinking, and for seniors seeking a lactose-free option, it often becomes a staple in morning routines. Poured into coffee, cereal, or a warm glass before bed. But for all its benefits, there's a side to soy milk that few older adults are ever told about, especially the versions enriched with added phytoestrogens or estrogen-mimicking compounds. Soy naturally contains isoflavones, plant compounds that can mildly mimic estrogen in the body, on their own and in moderation. They may offer certain benefits, especially for postmenopausal women. But the problem arises when food manufacturers concentrate these compounds, isolate them, or fortify soy milk with additional estrogen-like ingredients for marketing purposes. What was once a subtle influence becomes a strong hormonal signal, and for the aging brain, that signal isn't always helpful. As we grow older, the brain becomes more sensitive to hormonal shifts. Estrogen plays a complex role in regulating blood flow, inflammation, and neurotransmitter balance. In some contexts, it protects the brain. In others, especially when introduced in excess or without the balance of other hormones, it can increase the risk of vascular stress, mood disruption, and cognitive fog. For seniors, particularly men and women with existing cardiovascular concerns, this hormonal noise may quietly undermine mental clarity and emotional steadiness. What makes this even more concerning is the timing. Many seniors drink soy milk in the evening, thinking it's a light, healthy choice before sleep. But with added phytoestrogens in the bloodstream overnight, the body's delicate endocrine rhythm can be disrupted. Some people notice it as restlessness or vivid dreams. Others, as a subtle tension, a clouded mind upon waking, or a heaviness in the legs that wasn't there the day before. These aren't always dramatic symptoms, but they add up slowly, eroding the very steadiness and mental sharpness that aging adults work so hard to preserve. In men, the risks may go further. Elevated exposure to phytoestrogens over time has been associated with reduced testosterone activity, which can lead to muscle loss, fatigue, and a diminished sense of motivation or focus. For women, especially those taking hormone therapy or dealing with a history of stroke, the cumulative effect of added estrogen-like compounds may interfere with medication or exacerbate existing vascular concerns. But this doesn't mean soy milk must be avoided entirely. The key lies in how it's made and how often it's used. Traditional, organic soy milk, made from whole soybeans, without concentrated isoflavone extracts or hormone balancing claims, is far gentler on the system. It offers protein, calcium, and plant-based support without disrupting internal balance. The danger lies in the overly processed versions, those labeled with phrases like enhanced estrogen support or added isoflavones, especially when consumed daily and in large amounts. At this stage of life, your brain doesn't need hormonal confusion. It needs calm. It needs blood vessels that stay supple, thoughts that remain clear, and sleep that restores, rather than unsettles. And those goals begin with a quiet awareness of what's inside your glass. Coming up next, we'll explore a type of milk that doesn't even come from a plant or animal but sits in millions of pantries across the country. It's convenient, shelf-stable, and often added to coffee without a second thought. Yet its chemical additives and artificial fats may be stirring up inflammation in ways few people suspect. In 4. Milk with added sugar or artificial sweeteners. Milk, by its nature, is already slightly sweet, but in today's market, many versions, especially flavored, ready to drink, or breakfast-targeted varieties, come with an extra dose of sweetness. Some use cane sugar. Others rely on artificial sweeteners, like sucralose or aspartame. They're promoted as light, balanced, or even heart-healthy. But for seniors, these additions may quietly sabotage the very systems they hope to protect. Sugar and the aging brain do not mix well. As we grow older, the body's ability to regulate blood sugar becomes more fragile. What might have once been a harmless treat can now trigger a rapid rise in glucose, followed by a sharp drop that leaves you feeling lightheaded, foggy, or unsteady. These fluctuations, especially when repeated daily, increase the risk of insulin resistance, chronic inflammation, and vascular instability, all of which can affect brain health. Over time, elevated sugar intake contributes to narrowing of the arteries, not just in the heart, but in the brain's most delicate capillaries, where oxygen delivery determines memory, mood, and clarity. But even when the sugar is removed, the problem may remain, just in a different form. Artificial sweeteners are often used to create the illusion of health. These compounds, though calorie-free, may still trigger insulin responses, confuse hunger signals, and alter the gut microbiome in ways that indirectly affect cognitive function. In some seniors, regular intake of artificial sweeteners has been linked to increased risk of stroke and dementia. The effect is not immediate. It builds quietly, often unnoticed until the body's balance has already shifted. Many older adults turn to sweetened milks because they're easy to enjoy. Chocolate, vanilla, strawberry. They evoke comfort, familiarity, the warmth of childhood, and emotionally, that sweetness offers something real. But nutritionally, the cost is higher than it appears, especially when these milks are consumed at breakfast, when the brain is most vulnerable to blood sugar surges, or in the evening, when the body is winding down and sensitive to chemical stimulation. The good news is, not all flavor needs to be sacrificed. Unsweetened milk alternatives like oat, almond, or coconut milk can be naturally smooth and pleasant. A touch of cinnamon or cocoa powder added at home can recreate the flavor without compromising your brain or blood vessels. And when sweetness is desired, a small amount of honey or fruit puree, used sparingly and mindfully, can offer comfort without chaos. At this stage of life, your brain craves consistency, not surprises. And every spike, whether from sugar or synthetic sweetener, sends a signal. Your nervous system must work harder to manage. Over time, that stress shows up in ways we often blame on aging, when in fact, it began quietly, in the glass we sipped without question. Up next, we turn to one of the most overlooked culprits of all, a milk that seems innocent but may be quietly pulling minerals from your bones, your muscles, and even the protective structures inside your brain. 5. Powdered milk for seniors, without doctor supervision. Powdered milk has long been seen as a practical choice. It stores well, lasts longer than fresh milk, and is often marketed specifically towards seniors as a convenient, nutrient-rich solution. Many brands add calcium, vitamin D, protein isolates, and even iron, packaging it as a complete option for aging adults. But what's rarely discussed is what happens when this powdered formula is used regularly, over time, without guidance or medical supervision. Unlike fresh milk, powdered milk is highly concentrated, and when reconstituted, especially at full strength, or slightly above, it delivers a higher dose of certain nutrients than most seniors may need. For younger adults or those recovering from illness, this can be useful. But for older adults, particularly those already taking supplements, managing chronic conditions, or on prescription medication, it can quietly create excess, too much calcium, for instance, can lead to stiffening of the arteries, especially when paired with added vitamin D that forces more calcium into the bloodstream. Too much iron, common in senior formulated powdered milk, can accumulate in the muscles and joints, contributing to fatigue and inflammation. Added protein, when not balanced by hydration and kidney health, may place quiet strain on the body's filtration systems, and the sodium content, often increased for taste and stability, can raise blood pressure in subtle but steady ways. What makes this especially dangerous is how invisible it all seems. There's no dramatic symptom at first, just a little swelling in the ankles, a bit more pressure in the head, a fogginess in the morning that lingers longer than usual. These are not random signs of aging. They are the quiet consequences of overloading a system that now thrives on moderation and precision. In clinical settings, I've met seniors who began drinking powdered milk thinking they were making a better, stronger choice, especially when appetite faded or cooking became a chore. But over time, they noticed strange side effects: muscle tightness, higher blood pressure, or sudden fatigue after meals. And when we looked deeper, the common thread was clear: a nutrient-rich powder that was simply too much for a body no longer able to regulate excess on its own. That's why powdered milk, though not inherently harmful, should be approached with care, used occasionally, or under the guidance of a dietitian or doctor. It can be part of a balanced plan, but when consumed daily, especially in addition to fortified cereals, vitamins, or prepackaged foods, it becomes a quiet contributor to imbalance. What the aging brain and body need now is not a dense nutritional formula squeezed into every glass, but thoughtful nourishment, tailored to your real needs. That begins with simplicity, not fortification, with real foods, not just powders, with supervision, not assumptions, because the truth is, your brain doesn't just respond to what you eat. It remembers it. Over time, it carries the weight of every choice, every mineral, every additive, every imbalance. And in this chapter of life, clarity and stability begin, not with more, but with enough. Now that we've explored these 5 common milk choices that may be quietly harming your brain and circulation, let's take a moment to reflect. Because knowing what to avoid is only the beginning. The next step is choosing what supports you, one sip at a time. 6. What to eat and drink instead. After learning how certain milk choices may quietly strain the heart, stiffen the arteries, or cloud the mind, it's natural to ask, what can we turn to instead? The good news is that your body, even now, is still capable of healing, balancing, and strengthening itself when given the right support. You don't need complicated routines or expensive replacements. What your brain and blood vessels need now is gentle, steady nourishment, one glass, one bite at a time. Start with simplicity. If you enjoy dairy, choose plain, unfortified, low-fat, or lactose-free milk in small, balanced portions. These provide protein and calcium without overwhelming your system. Even better, pair them with real food, fresh fruit, whole grains, a boiled egg. When taken together, these foods slow the digestive process, helping regulate blood sugar and keeping circulation steady. That steadiness matters more now than ever. For those who prefer non-dairy options, there are plant-based milks that support the body without confusion. Unsweetened oat milk, almond milk, flax milk, or cashew milk offer comfort without artificial ingredients or excessive additives. Look for varieties with minimal processing and no added sugars or protein isolates. These milks may not shout about benefits on the label, but they offer something more important: peace inside the body. One of the best choices for circulation and brain clarity is warm water with a squeeze of fresh lemon in the morning. This simple drink helps wake up digestion, gently alkalizes the system, and hydrates the blood after sleep. If you need something creamier, try blending unsweetened plant milk with a touch of cinnamon. Turmeric, or ginger. These spices don't just add flavor, they bring anti-inflammatory properties that soothe joints and calm the brain. Don't underestimate the quiet power of soups. A cup of homemade vegetable or bone broth, sipped slowly, provides hydration, minerals, and warmth, without putting pressure on the digestive system. Soups are often overlooked, but for seniors, they can be one of the most efficient ways to deliver nutrients to the body in a form it can absorb without struggle. For sweetness, turn to nature, not chemicals. A few blended berries, a spoon of mashed banana, or even a drizzle of raw honey can transform a plain glass of milk into something comforting without causing sudden spikes in blood sugar. And unlike processed sweeteners, these natural flavors come with fiber, antioxidants, and a sense of satisfaction that doesn't fade after 10 minutes. More importantly, to listen to how your body responds not in the moment, but an hour later. Do you feel more stable, more clear-headed, more at ease? These small cues are often more honest than any label, more trustworthy than any marketing. And as you age, your body may become keener, but it becomes wiser, too, if you're willing to hear it. You don't need to make these changes all at once. Just begin. Replace one carton. Change one cup. Adjust one routine. The benefits often arrive slowly. Without fanfare, steadier mornings, fewer ditzy spells, better focus, deeper sleep. These are the signs that your brain is no longer fighting what you drink but receiving it, understanding it, and using it to protect you. The truth is, nourishment after 60 isn't just about nutrients, it's about clarity. About knowing what no longer serves you, about recognizing that the body you live in now asks for a different kind of care. Not louder, not stronger, not faster but softer, more patient, and more aligned with what truly helps you stay balanced. And in that quiet care, you'll find something powerful. Not just a drink, not just a meal, but a return to rhythm, a return to a body that doesn't just survive aging, but begins, day by day, to feel safe, supported, and at home again. Awareness isn't just about protecting your brain, it's about preserving your freedom, your clarity, and your ability to live life on your terms. And at this stage of life, that may be one of the most precious gifts you can still give yourself. The lessons shared in this video are here to remind you that even small changes, what you pour into your glass, what you leave out, can make a real difference. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be present and willing to care gently for the body that's carried you this far. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Take a moment to reflect and share one thing you've learned and plan to apply. Let's grow together in awareness, in strength, and in kindness. If this video helped you, please leave a comment with 1. If not, feel free to share a 0. Your feedback truly matters. Thank you for watching and for choosing to live with intention.